On today's episode, I talk about UPSs and why a surge bar just doesn't cut it. This is TQA Weekly, and if ever you have any questions, comments, suggestions, and or PC horror stories, you can always email me at ask@tqaweekly.com. Go to my website and leave them below each of these specific episodes where the comments are actually placed for you. And of course, you can always use the contact form to email me directly. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, blip.tv, Vimeo, or anywhere else I post to every single week, you can always leave it down below. So this week's topic is how to prevent hardware failure while using an uninterruptible power supply, UPS. Why? Well, this is going to be very simple for you. Most of the time, we just assume that a power bar, a surge bar, will cut it. Sometimes we presume that because we have a UPS, that our hardware is actually protected. The thing is you really need to understand what the hardware is made for, how to treat it correctly, and know when it's time to change it. So recently, at one of my jobs, there was a minor, screw it, major power glitch in a power line where a breaker actually blew. Most of the time, this causes a power outage, and surrounding circuits, this causes a minor power fluctuation. By minor, I'm just being polite. Now, in the case of a UPS, standard protocol is the multimeter inside detects that there is a difference in the normal harmonics of the volts to amp ratio. Too high or too low, and it's supposed to fall onto the battery. At this point, most UPSs will protect the devices while maintaining their power on state. If this was a computer, you can always have the computer set up so that when the battery reaches a certain threshold, it will turn off gracefully by itself. Unfortunately, you need to know how to take care of the UPS and know why it's there in order to make sure that it functions correctly all the time. So first, most people won't know this, but UPS means uninterruptible power supply. It's a surge bar that has a battery, a multimeter, and it has a way of determining if the volt to amperage ratio in the line's harmonics is not safe. When it's not safe, it turns off the circuit that is charging the battery and runs the devices specifically from the battery. Now, in this scheme, if the multimeter were to fail, you would end up on the battery and the thing would just die. And it would never charge again because it would have turned the circuit off. In the other part of the circuit and primary point of failure, there's a battery. It is a lead acid battery. So we're not going to get even just yet into what you do with this battery at all. Second, because all UPSs have their own battery, no UPS comes out of the box fully charged. It can take 24 hours before you can safely use them. In these cases, it is suggested to charge them for 24 hours before putting them into their final working position. It is also suggested and normally indicated in every single one of these manuals to only plug one per outlet and to never daisy chain a UPS. Because they actually scan the harmonics of the power lines, they will automatically fall onto the battery if they're connected to another UPS because their harmonics coming off a UPS are filtered and it won't know this, and it will just assume that there's no more power coming off of it, even though technically speaking, there's still power. But there's no point daisy chaining them. They will survive exactly the same amount of time, one way or another. Third, most UPS batteries don't last more than 3 years. For this reason, the software normally comes with both a last change date and a battery tester. What the battery tester does is it turns off the charging option of the UPS for several seconds at a time to see if the battery holds enough of a charge to maintain the equipment. If it passes, it will tell you that it passed. If it fails, it will tell you to change the battery immediately. It also has the expiration date in the software. It will tell you when it's due to change the battery. When the battery is meant to be changed, you should either change the battery or change the UPS altogether. Now we're at the point of how I tell you to deal with the battery. Most UPS manufacturers, my favorite being American Power Conversion, go to apc.com, will actually have an option for you to return the battery or the entire UPS, where they may actually give you a rebate on a newer battery or a brand new UPS in exchange for allowing them to recycle them. Some of them may not offer the option of a rebate, but they will take back the UPS and recycle it correctly. One way or another, you're not putting this into a landfill that will contaminate for the future. Because lead acid batteries, quite frankly, you can't just throw that away. Just like you can't just throw away a car battery, because that's essentially what it is, a tiny car battery. Fourth detail of the day, imminent failure symptoms include, get this, and by the way, these symptoms can take out the hardware at the same time. Imminent failure symptoms, let's say you're not listening to what the UPS is telling you, include device powering off for no freaking reason whatsoever. It just poof, gone, off. Now, while once or twice might not blow it, it can. Some hardware is sensitive enough that the first time it does it, the board just burns. Second one is sometimes some of the parts inside are not going too well and it will just turn off unexpectedly. It just falls onto the battery and ends up discharging, computer turns off, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes the length of time that it's supposed to be on battery before turning off is too short. In these cases, let's say you had 15 minutes and it turned off after 3. Well, that's probably because it doesn't hold as much of a charge anymore, and it is really time to change the battery inside. Meanwhile, you do have to keep in mind that if you plugged a lot more devices to the battery itself, it's going to shorten the delay. But let's say everything being even, you only plugged in the same devices that were good for 15 minutes and are now 3, it's a safe bet the battery's going dead. Keep in mind, you must at least remember to change the battery every 3 years, especially in these cases. And if you don't feel comfortable about it because it's just spontaneously turning off, or especially the symptom of it turning off without any valid reason despite they're supposedly having enough power, you should change the entire device in itself. Lastly, for those wondering, why doesn't the surge bar cut it? Why am I talking about UPSs? Why am I even talking about changing the batteries and testing the equipment, making sure you replace it when it has to be? Why can't a search bar do the job? Well, during a blackout, no computer. If you're working on a document, it's gone. There's nothing you can do about it. All the RAM is gone, nothing to do. Most damage doesn't occur to a computer simply from over voltage. In fact, because we have power supplies in our computers, depending on what kind of over voltage it is, it can be safely transferred into a usable DC charge in our computer. Now, under voltage though, might actually cause a 12-volt rail inside the computer to be under power, causing all the fans and cooling systems in your computer not to work correctly and cause overheating of certain sensitive peripherals inside your computer, including your processor and your graphics card, which might actually cause them to short. This is a computer. Whole bunch of other equipment may have different fans on different pieces of chips that actually generate a lot more heat. If the fans themselves do not have enough power, undercurrent, they will burn, they will short out, and it will become useless. A UPS's primary job is to make sure that you never lose power to your equipment. By default, meaning it will protect you just as much from overcurrent as a surge bar would, which, by the way, could break your equipment simply by turning off, but it will also protect you from undercurrent, which will actually prevent the computer or any other device from simply turning off and going boom. Because we never know what's going to happen to our computers when there's not enough power in the wall at all. So, for those who think this is a great episode, don't like the episode, like, dislike, share, comment, tell me what you want to hear about, ask me your questions, give me your comments, suggestions, and our PC horror stories. And don't forget to share with other people that you think could actually benefit from this episode. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.